Hello friends, welcome to Seco Psycho. In this video, you're going to learn neuroimaging technique. Previously, you learned about invasive technique stimulating from the inside, but now you're learning about stimulating from the outside of the brain. Here, you will learn all the methods where we use to study the behavior, the brain's function and structure, and the degree of spatial resolutions, like to ability to see fine details and temporal resolutions, ability to take to time lock or a recorded event. So all these things are imaged through using various techniques. So traditionally, if you want to treat the patients who are suffering with the psychotic disorders, they used to do listening, putting the electrodes inside the brain. You can see the in the picture also. So by putting the electrodes inside the patient's brain, they used to release the pressure, release the some sort of neurotransmitters, or simply called chemicals from the brain, which help to make them normal. But actually, it is one of the dangerous process. It may affect or damage other parts of the brain also. But presently, we are using the highly advanced technology. We are using new techniques to study and to research the brain structure and functions. Among that, mapping structure. As hinted at earlier, aside from the observing the person's behavior, scientists had to wait until a person died to fully investigate if there were changes or damage to the individual's brain. Fortunately, modern neuroimaging allows us to image the brain structure while the person is still alive. The first one is computed tomography or CT scan, simply we call it. Scientists have several ways to look inside the human brain without causing harm to the person. One way is to take a series of X-rays of the brain aided by a computer. This is accomplished during a CT scan, or we call computed tomography, involves mapping slices of the brain by computer. CT scans can show stroke damage, tumors, injuries, and abnormal brain structure. A CT scan is also the structural imaging method of choice when there is a metal in the body. Example, if a patient having a bullet or surgery clips, we can use CT scan, and useful for imaging possible skull fracture too. The second one is magnetic resonance imaging or MRI. As useful as a CT scan can be for imaging the skull, it doesn't show very small details within the brain. The relatively newer technique of magnetic resonance imaging or MRI provides much more detail, even allowing doctors to see the effects of very small strokes. The person getting an MRI scan is placed inside a machine that generates a powerful magnetic field to align hydrogen atoms in the brain tissues spin in a random fashion. The radio pulses are used to make the atoms spin at a particular frequency and direction. The time it takes for the atom to return to their normal spin allows the computer to create a 3D image of the brain and display slices of that image on screen. So if I'm wrong, you can see a CT or that MRI where a person is placed inside, and that thing is rotating, spinning with a lot of speed. Here, using MRI as a basis, several techniques have been developed that allow us to study other aspects of the brain. MRI spectroscopy allows researchers to estimate the concentration of specific chemicals and neurotransmitters in the brain. Another fascinating technique is called DTI or diffusion tensor imaging. The brain has two distinct color regions, gray matter, the outer layer consisting largely of neurons with the myelinated axons. If you see the picture, to the right side, you will find some colors in the brain. In that, you will find an orange color, which is showing a brain cancer called glioblastoma. It is a brain disorder. This picture is taken from the DTA, where the image is taken from with the colors. Wherever you'll find a dark color, it is indicating some sort of brain disorder or brain damage. As you know, myelinated axons, which are responsible for lighter color, DTA uses MRI technology to provide a way to measure connectivity in the brain by imaging these white matter tracks. DTA has been used to investigate normal functions such as structural changes associated with the levels of memory, performance, and various disorders and conditions, including Alzheimer's disease, MS, and traumatic brain injury. So, mapping function. In addition to imaging the different parts of the brain to understand what may or may not be present, examining the function of the brain is also important in understanding behavior and mental processes. The electroencephalogram, the electroencephalogram (EEG), an important as imaging brain structure. It is sometimes important to know how different brain areas function. A fairly harmless way to study the activity of the living brain is to record the electrical activity of the cortex just below the skull using a device called EEG, electroencephalograph. The first EEG recorded in humans was in the year 1924 by Hans Berger. Recording the EEG involves using small metal discs or spongy-like electrodes placed directly on the skull and a special solution to help conduct the electrical signals from the cortex just below. These electrodes are connected to an amplifier and then to a computer to view the information. The resulting electrical output forms waves that indicate many things, such as stages of sleep, seizures, and even the presence of tumors. The EEG can also be used to help determine which areas of the brain are active during various mental tasks that involves memory and attention. EEG activity can be classified according to appearance and frequency, and different waves are associated with different brain activity. For example, alpha waves in the back of the brain are one indication of relaxed wakefulness. EEG waveforms are covered in more detail in another video. Another common EEG-based technique focuses on event-related potential or ERP. So this is a EEG machine that electrodes are placed directly on the skull and the special solution is applied. So here, patient's facial expressions also be considered whether a person is suffering with schizophrenia. And we do researches based on EEG machine also when you're playing a game, how your brain is responding, what waves are released. Is it relaxed or anxious or arousal waves? And all these emotion facial expressions are recorded with the help of camera which is connected to computer and where a person supervises it. The post-traumatic emission tomography (PET). The functional neuroimaging method discussed so far rely on the electrical activity of the brain. Other techniques make use of other indicators of brain activity, indicating energy consumption or changes in brain oxygen levels. If area of the brain are active, they are likely using fuel and oxygen. In posterior emission tomography (PET), the person is injected with a radioactive glucose, a kind of sugar. The computer detects the activity of the brain cells by looking at which cells are using up the radioactive glucose and projecting the image of that activity onto a monitor. The computer uses colors to indicate different levels of brain activity. For example, lighter colors may indicate greater activity. With this method, researchers can actually have the person perform different tasks while the computer shows what is our brain doing during the task. A related technique in single photon emission computed tomography, which measures brain blood flow and take advantage of more easily obtainable radioactive traces, those used for PET. You can see PET scan of autism child. If you take outer layer, which is very, which is not at all colorful, it is indicating that a child is suffering with autism. and the different colors give a different idea how they are functioning. And the lighter color will be having higher, greater activity, and the dark color will be having a low level of activity. If you take SPECT, single photon emission to computed tomography, where you can measure brain blood flow and takes advantage of more easily to obtain what are the radioactive traces which are used in PET. Magnetoencephalograph, MEG or magnetoencephalograph. While the EEG alone does not allow for the direct identification of area of brain activation, a closely related does. Magnetoencephalography uses devices that are very sensitive to magnetic fields called superconducting quantum interferences devices, which are contained in a helmet-like device. It is placed over the individual head. MEG has many applications and is being used to differentiate dementia disorder and to explore cognitive processes in autism. So it is a MEG where you will find a helmet like structure inside the MEG machine, which is covers your head, and it will analyze your cognitive processes, and it will give a complete data to the researcher or a clinician. Last but not least, functional MRI. Although traditional MRI scans only show structure, but here functional MRI, in which the computer tracks changes in oxygen levels of the blood, provides information on the brain's function as well. By superimposing information about where oxygen is being used in the brain over an image of the brain structure, researchers can identify what areas of the brain are most active during specific tasks. By combining such images takes over a period of time, a sort of a movie of the brain's function can be made. Functional MRIs can give more detail, tend to be clearer than PET scans, and are incredibly useful tool for research into the working of the brain. For example, fMRI has been used to demonstrate that older adults with a genetic risk of Alzheimer's disease show great activation in the brain area associated with the semantic knowledge and word retrieval when compared to older adults without the genetic risk. These findings may one day help clinical researchers and doctors identify individuals at risk for Alzheimer's much earlier in the disease process. There is also exciting research suggesting individuals can use fMRI to learn how to regulate their own brain processes. Individuals with schizophrenia were able to use real-time fMRI or RT fMRI to learn how to control a portion of their brain that assist in recognition of facial emotions, which is a common deficit in schizophrenia. Functional neuroimaging is also helping researchers understand how various types of treatment and therapy affects the brain in a variety of disorders. So it's a fMRI. You can see it, one of the early advanced one. And that's all, friends. If you have any doubts, you can comment in the below section. If you're being a psychologist, you need to learn all these things because a psychiatrist will observe the brain through fMRI, PT scan. So being a psychologist, you need to read all these reports. That's why counselors do possess this type of knowledge regarding the mapping of the brain.